Good morning, everyone. My name is Rev Heng Sure, and the things I'm going to be sharing with you today are distinctly religious-friendly. Although I'm a Buddhist monk and my meditation experience has to do with Buddhism, I'm going to be talking about principles and practices that are religion-wide and science-friendly. So if you have no particular religion, these technologies, these ancient ways of knowing are also available to you. I wanted to first give you a sense of where my understanding of religion came from Master Hsuan Hua. Master Hsuan Hua was a Buddhist monk from China, and he was a meditation master and taught me everything I know about meditation. So just to give you a sense of where this comes from personally. On your table, you will have one of these guys, and she's going to be our guide through meditation. Just to point to the book at this point, and then move on to the slides. We're going to come back to the book halfway through the talk and have fun with it. This is our gift to you from the design team at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery and the Dharma Realm Buddhist Association. So although it looks like it's something that your daughter might have put together, we hope so, because meditation is also ageless and kid-friendly and adult-friendly. It looks harmless. It's a power tool. So no batteries needed, but when you plug this in to your body and mind, you get results. Let's start right out. Meditation is not only an Asian import. Meditation, the word, appears 20 times in the Hebrew Scriptures and in the Gospels, and Christian and Jewish meditation flourishes today. Some of you may not know that. Here's an example. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue and if there is anything praiseworthy, there's that word, meditate on those things, on these things. St. Paul, in his epistle to the Philippians, there we go, meditation in the Bible, for sure. Isaac meditated in the field at eventide, we learned in Genesis. Joshua was charged by God to meditate day and night. And the blessed man, the blessed woman in Psalms 1 is one who meditates. How interesting. Who knew? David became wiser than his teachers because he meditated. Paul commanded Timothy to meditate on these things. That phrase returns. These are the words of Jesus. But when you pray, go to your inner room, and that can be an actual room. It can be an internal inner room. Close the door and pray to your Father in secret, and your Father, who sees in secret, will repay you. That comes from Matthew, the book of Matthew. So lots of biblical instructions to meditate. Of course, the question is, what does the Bible mean by the word meditate? And we're going to go into that in a minute. I think it means something different than what Buddhists, for example, or Hindus might mean when they use the word meditate. But therein lies the investigation. Therein lies the richness. Christian meditation is very much a part of our world today. And although the Christian meditation I'm going to show you here is by and large taught by Catholic monastics, certainly any Protestant in the wide family of non-Catholic Christians can meditate. And there are meditations, while they come through Catholic monastics by and large, Trappists, Cistercians, and Benedictines. My mother, who was a Methodist lifelong, also likes to meditate. Here are some current methods of Christian meditation. The Jesus Prayer, highlighted by the Greek Orthodox, by Eastern Orthodox. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's the Jesus prayer. Often, has a million variations. Some people time it to the breath. They say, Lord Jesus, inhale, have mercy, exhale. Lord Jesus, inhale, have mercy, exhale. So the Jesus prayer, the prayer of the heart, it's called, has many variations. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. How many of you read Salinger's Franny and Zoe? If you're my age, that was a big book back then, Franny and Zoe. Remember, there's that little book that they carry. This is it. It's the Jesus prayer. Centering prayer, taught largely by Father Thomas Keating, carried on, meditates on a sacred word, and you take your choice. There are many to choose from. God, Jesus, Abba, Father, Mary, Mother, Amen, and other words. Often you ask for guidance, which word is your word? And then you do centering prayer. I'm going to show you later where to find more information on these. And then there is the World Society for Christian Meditation, started by Father John Main, a Benedictine, and carried on now by Father Lawrence Freeman. And they instruct you to focus on the word Maranatha. It's a Gatha. This is Aramaic. This is the language that Jesus himself spoke, and it means, Lord, come. So, how Christian is this meditation? Further, there is something called Lectio Divina, which I'm not going to go into today, but it has to do with meditating on text and contemplating and then reading. So, there's lots and lots of Christian meditation out there. World Community for Christian Meditation can be found at WCCM. I recommend you do. Father Lawrence Freeman is a personal friend of mine. He's a Benedictine British monk who leads meditation retreats and has been doing so for many, many years. He works closely with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in investigating Buddhist Christian meditation. Centering Prayer, www.centeringprayer.com. As I said, that's Father Thomas Keating, and he's all over the world. Father Thomas is a very respected figure in both in Christian meditation and also the dialogue side, Buddhist Christian meditation, Buddhist Catholic dialogue. And you can find him in small towns teaching meditation retreats and centering prayer. The website is excellent, Father Thomas Keating. Here's a typical instruction from Father Lawrence Freeman. He says, now this is actually the technology of Christian meditation. Find a quiet place, sit down with your back upright, and sit still. That's a big piece of it. Gently close your eyes. That's the outside, in other words. The inside, gently close your eyes, begin to recite your prayer word or mantra silently, interiorly, that is to say, with reflection, and lovingly throughout the time of your meditation. Maranatha. Say it as 4 equally stressed syllables. Maranatha. Come, Lord. This, as I say, is Aramaic. It's one of the earliest prayers found in Scripture. He goes on to say, don't think about the meaning of the word. Just give your attention to the sound of it throughout the time of your meditation from beginning to end. Whenever distractions arise, simply return to your mantra. And he goes on to recommend 2 periods a day, 20 minutes each, morning and night. Seek the stillness that follows from the word. Now, Father Lawrence Freeman is carrying on the work of John Main, who was largely the pioneer of Christian meditation. Father John always said, just say your word. Meditation is a way of pure prayer marked by silence, stillness, and simplicity. Here is a picture of Father Lawrence Freeman. Here is Thomas Keating. So, I hope I've made the case that Christians do meditate. There is something uniquely Christian in the world of meditation. Bible-centered, Jesus-centered, and it has to do with opening up to the sacred inside. And at that point, it coincides with larger circles of Buddhist meditation, Hindu meditation, Sufi meditation. But it's uniquely Christian, and it's yours should you choose to pick it up. One of my favorite quotes is from the Camaldolese Benedictines. Their patron saint is Father Saint Romuald, who was a 4th century monastic. He said, "Sit in your cell as in paradise." Sit in your SUV's back seat, as in paradise. If there's too many cell phones and pets in your house, go out in your SUV. You knew it was good for something, right? Just you can lean the seat back and meditate there in the garage or in the carport. Sit in your SUV, as in paradise. Put the whole world behind you and forget it. Watch your thoughts like a good fisherman watching for fish, observing the fish swim back and forth, observing the thoughts coming and going. The path you must follow is in the Psalms. Never leave it. And I've cut a few lines out here. And if your mind wanders as you read, and it will, our minds are active, and they're often like monkeys jumping from branch to branch. When your mind wanders as you read, do not give up. You're not a failure as a meditator. Hurry back and apply your mind to the words once more, back to your mantra, to your sacred name. Empty yourself completely and sit waiting, content with the grace of God, like the chick who tastes nothing and eats nothing but what his mother brings him. How lovely. That could have come from a Chan master, with the exception of the reference to the Psalms. Okay, next. We have something you might not have expected. Jewish meditation. My goodness. Jewish meditation is big in California. Something called Jewish renewal is alive and well. There's a statistic that 80% of the teachers of Jewish spirituality died in the Holocaust. And that means that all those traditions were stopped. They were cut off. And some very courageous Jewish teachers and rabbis and non-rabbis trying hard to stitch back together the fragments of Jewish spirituality, and meditation is a big part of it. Jonathan Omerman is one of the originals, and Rev Zalman Schachter Shalomi. They're both in LA originally. He is now in Berkeley. But this is a quote that I really like that resonates. The spiritual realm is remarkably subtle, he says. For this reason, in the story of Elijah, God is not found in the whirlwind, fire, or earthquake, as he appears in other aspects of the Torah, but in the subtle voice or sound that can only be heard in silence. Sounds meditative, doesn't it? We can discern instructions for meditation here. The challenge in meditation is to persevere and to penetrate beyond the whirlwind of thought, the fire of emotion, and the quaking of sensation, our daily consciousness, parts of our consciousness, until we come to the very foundations of consciousness. Here we may hear the still, subtle voice and find renewal in our encounter with the divine. This, again, could have been spoken by a Chan master, pointing back beyond consciousness to the quiet mind within. Now, this is a lot, so bear with me. Jewish meditation methods, chanting of verses from Psalms, Torah, and prayers, focusing on a shviti, a special Jewish graphic that helps induct a mystical state of consciousness, as Muslims and Buddhists also do. You can find that in the art scroll Tehillim, if you look that up. Meditation on the names of God, we just learned that Catholics do that, or the letters of God's name on the Jewish alphabet. Guided visualizations, walking, dancing, and movement meditations, lots of dancing in Judaism. Focusing on the levels of internal or external flame. Working with the Sephirot, the tree of life, that's part of the Kabbalah, which has now been made popular recently. Attaining a state of ayin, the no state, which is all, often through attention to breath and silence, as we're going to do in a few minutes. Guided sounding of vowels or letters, the Hebrew alphabet again. Study of ancient sacred Jewish texts designed to induce mystical encounter, and becoming attuned to the power of special blessings in connecting us to what mystics call the river of light. So I apologize for throwing all these at you at once. And the Chinese say, 走马看花. We're just riding on a horse looking at the flowers, right? There's a rose, there's a chrysanthemum, we can't actually experience the flowers, but these are all, mind you, flowers of meditation that have been part of the Jewish world as long as Jews have self-identified. For more, as we found with the Christian meditation, please go look up Goldie Milgram's website, Reb Goldie. This is Rabbi Goldie Milgram, who has a wonderful site on Jewish meditation, and Hokmat Halev, the center of the heart, hokmat.org. Hokmat Halev is Jewish Renewal in Berkeley, and when they were first getting started, they came to the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery for the first year of their existence because they didn't have a home. Abram Davis is their leader, and he would beat his drum and do his chanting surrounded by the Buddha images in the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery. So Jewish meditation is very much alive. And, of course, when you put Zen and Judaism together, what do you get? You get Jubus. You knew that, right? That's an actual word. So Jubus have their own wisdom, and you can research yourself. There's a tremendous synergy between Jews and Buddhism in this country. Think Joseph Goldstein, Jack Kornfield, Sylvia Boorstein, James Baraz, and others. There are many reasons for that, and that would be another talk. I've written a paper on that, in fact. But there's wisdom of Jubus that kind of blends this together. For example, here's some advice from a Jewish grandmother. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Forget this, and not attaining enlightenment will be the least of your problems. So no. Be here now. We all know that. Advice from a Jewish grandmother who's a meditator, probably a Zen master. Be someplace else later. Is that so complicated? And the one that I like, John Kabat-Zinn, wherever you go, there you are. Your luggage is another story. If you find this amusing, check out Sylvia Boorstein's book, Funny You Don't Look Buddhist. So, that's another story. Okay, now let's move over. Eastern meditation, as we know, has now come to the West. We've just located what? Western meditation. To be precise, Middle Eastern meditation, Christian and Jewish. But what about Eastern meditation coming to the West? Well, the first real encounter with actual Eastern meditators, not missionaries going to Asia and coming back to talk about it, was in 1893 at the Parliament of World's Religions in Chicago. That was the World's Fair, and here were such people as Swami Vivekananda, who brought Vedanta, the most mystical side of Hinduism. Swami Vivekananda was this marvelous individual. Look, I have a picture of him here. Here's Swami Vivekananda. And you can see, he was handsome and just dynamic, and he was a real meditator, so he had presence and he could speak. And Swami Vivekananda made a sensation in Chicago. And Vedanta put down roots in Chicago at that point, 1893. It was so important that 100 years later, Chicago did the second Parliament of World's Religions as the centennial of Swami Vivekananda's arrival. Another very important figure who was there at the Parliament, not as a main speaker, but as a secretary to a Zen teacher, was D.T. Suzuki. How many people have read D.T. Suzuki's books on Zen? Anybody? Okay, yeah, he was very, very important. If you were, for about 20 years, during the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, D.T. Suzuki, as a Japanese scholar, but also a Zen practitioner, had the best books. Zen Teachings, Series 1, 2, and 3. Here is D.T. Suzuki. He went on to Columbia University and did serious academic research into the Dharma as well as translation. So these are historically, the first identifiable Eastern meditators who came to America, put down their seeds, and the work they did is still resonating. So how did we, ordinary folks, I grew up in Toledo, Ohio as a Methodist, baseball-playing, guitar-strumming television watcher. And what in the world happened that I would wind up here in front of you today wearing the robe that I'm wearing and living the lifestyle that I lead? It had to do a lot with authors. We read. For example, I mentioned Franny and Zoe. Franny and Zoe by Salinger talked about the Jesus prayer. Go back and read it if you get a chance. It's still a very compelling book. Jack Kerouac's Dharma Bums. I read it when I was a junior high student in Toledo, and I remember reading the words Diamond Sutra, Bodhisattva, Satori, Shunyata, emptiness, and I was hooked. I needed to know what Dharma meant in the title. That was what really set me off. And then Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha was about it's a quasi-fictional account of the biography of the Buddha. Paramahamsa Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi was very important to many, many folks. So that was, Franny and Zoe was Christian meditation. Dharma Bum's Buddhist autobiography of a yogi was Hindu meditation. All these streams flowing into America. We first learned about Zen, by and large, with the Beatniks, who went from San Francisco to Japan and then brought what they learned back. Gary Snyder, Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, and Philip Whalen. Kerouac actually never got to Japan, as far as I know, but he brought it back. So Zen became this word that has now lodged itself into everything from Zen is now a perfume fragrance. There's Zen of everything from Zen of exercise to Zen of tennis to Zen of motorcycle maintenance to, Zen of finding the right online date. There's lots of Zens in the world right now. Transcendental meditation, oh my goodness, with the most significant advocates of transcendental meditation were the Beatles, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. How many people, again, got a mantra back when? We've been talking to folks, yeah, right, okay, back when it was free, right? So, yeah, TM has, again, knit itself strongly into American culture. They have a large university in Fairfield, Iowa. They've run presidential candidates. They've done meditation surveys with entire cities. Remember the one on the East Coast? They planted meditators. They imported 1,000 meditators and had them all meditate at the same time and looked at the crime statistics to see whether that focused consciousness could somehow change the climate of people move to violence or move to restraining violence. So that information is all online. Hinduism came in many, many forms. Vedanta, we mentioned, was with Swami Vivekananda originally. There are Vedanta societies all over America. Brahmakumaris, we had our Brahmakumari sister at VegSource here 4 or 5 years ago on a panel, Sister Gita, who talked about Brahmakumaris and their vegan lifestyle. So Swami Satchidananda, Swami Muktananda, Eknath Eswaran, these are names familiar to anybody who's interested in finding out more about Eastern meditation's arrival in the U.S. For those of you who were less adventurous and who maybe used your TV as your window to the world, you learned about meditation through Kung Fu, remember? Choose wisely, grasshopper. Remember that one? Cain walked through the West looking stupefied and kind of reacting, kind of from a dim haze. Many people got their first understanding that there was some wisdom in the East through Kung Fu, so we owe a debt. Sufism, the mystical side of Islam, is very, very much a part of American spirituality, also here on the West Coast. This includes the whirling dervishes and the poet Rumi, who are all Sufis. So these are all ways of meditating that made it into the West. Taoism, the Chinese indigenous tradition. Other people learned about Eastern methods, alternatives to our consciousness, through yoga, through martial arts, through Tai Chi. We heard Sabrina the other day talk about how recently she's gone to yoga and how she gained benefit. So this yoga right now is moving really fast. There's half a dozen ways to do yoga nationwide. Bikram and all the different yogas. And there is martial arts studios in probably every single city in America. Tai Chi is slowly making its way in too as an alternative way of exercise and health. Buddhism came in with Chan, that's my tradition, Zen, Vipassana, arguably the fastest growing form of Buddhism right now, Nichiren, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, people do this practice, originally Japanese. Jodo Shinshu is Japanese Pure Land, Namo Amida Butsu. People do all these different kinds. And there are monastic forms, Thai, Chinese, Tibetan. I did a pilgrimage last year in January to a mountaintop in Thailand and a riverbank called Khao Yai. And here's a Thai Buddhist monk who was in the group of monastics who went up. Kind of an idyllic spot for meditation. Just wanted to share these with you. We had a waterfall in our riverbank. That's me. That's not a Photoshop. That's actually. Kids, don't try this at home. There we go. This is how one meditates. This is a Canadian Thai Buddhist, Ajahn Pasano. He's the abbot of a monastery in Redwood Valley, Northern California, sitting the way you're supposed to sit if you're doing Buddhist meditation. That's a perfect example. So just to say that Westerners are going back to Asia now, reintroducing the Dharma, as well as Eastern meditators coming to the West. The most notable one is, of course, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This was taken in San Francisco 2 months ago. You can see these are all the monks. That's me, right there. And Ajahn Pasano, the monk you saw sitting by the waterfall, is right there. By golly, 2 buddies. So these are mostly Western monastics who gathered to listen to His Holiness the Dalai Lama speak about the middle way of Nagarjuna. So, that is to say, monastic forms of Buddhism are here as well. How interesting. All right, when meditation came to the West, of course, it had to encounter Western culture at its peak. So, science is one of our most distinctive exports to the world. And here is a place that I would like to recommend you go look if you're interested in meditation and the mind, is Mind and Life Institute, Investigating the Mind. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been working with scientists and neuro researchers, brain researchers, psychologists, physicians, on what happens when you meditate. They've been doing conferences since 1987 was the first one, every year. 1 year in Dharamsala and then 1 year in the West. And the results are there at Mind and Life organization, mindandlife.org. Wired up for neural research. That's not a hat. Those are neural sensors on the Lama, who is going to be tested for his responses to stimuli after he's going to be doing he's considered one of the shock troops of meditation. He can really meditate, and they're going to judge his responses to stimuli. And here's some of the things they've discovered. This is interesting. The results of tests like that, scans of monks' brains show meditation alters structure and functioning. This was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. Long-term meditators self-induce high-amplitude gamma synchrony during mental practice. I'm sure you all got that, right? If you didn't and you want to know more, I went myself to figure out what they meant, and when I read the article, I still didn't get it. But the point is that when you meditate, your brain changes for the good. So that faced with, the one monk who you saw pictured, they showed him repeated pictures of auto accidents, of Holocaust photographs, of horrifying, terrifying, blood-curdling, brutal, sad images and sounds, and his the part of his brain that lit up was not the fear, it was the compassion side. It was the amygdala part of the brain that opened to kindness and sadness, not fear. So distinctly different after years of meditation. Interesting, huh? National Geographic recently did a big series of articles that reported that Western doctors are starting to be less skeptical about Buddhism, about meditation, that is to say. Regular meditation increases smarts and staves off aging. The research is one in a string of studies that suggests some time spent getting in tune with the flow of your breathing can complement a regimen of pills, diet, and exercise. Meditation is being prescribed for stress, anxiety, infertility, skin diseases, and other ailments. Take 3 meditations and mail in the $5, right? Many medical professionals in the West remain skeptical or are against the use of meditation for therapy, but some are beginning to endorse its benefits, said neuroscientist Sarah Lazar, who leads the research at Harvard Medical School in Boston. Our hope is that by providing concrete evidence of meditation's benefits, more people will at least try it and see if it's beneficial for them. So this was in National Geographic. BBC recently reported, and I'm sure you'll be glad to know, and you heard it here at VegSource, Buddhists really are happier. And maybe those who associate with them. Scientists say they have evidence to show that Buddhists really are happier and calmer than other people. There's a caveat here. Researchers at the University of California at UCSF Med Center found that experienced Buddhists who meditate regularly, if you're a couch potato Buddhist, you still may be miserable. We're less likely to be shocked, flustered, surprised, or angry compared to other people. Paul Ekman, who carried out the study, said the most remarkable hypothesis is there's something about conscientious Buddhist practice that results in the kinds of happiness we all seek. And just translate meditation for that, okay? So if you want to know more, go check BBC News 2003, May 2003. All right. Here's another place. Now that we've seen scientists encounter with Buddhism, how about as with scientists encounter with meditation? How about when it flows out into society? Here is a fascinating encounter between meditation and the academy. These folks are academics. They're scholars who want to do something useful with the meditation that they have been learning and practicing, and they want to stitch it into the fabric of society. So they're looking at social justice, law, youth problems, issues of work in the workplace, philanthropy, places where the insights of meditation can apply and get some traction on the issues that can benefit society. Contemplativemind.org. You'll find more about that. There's an excellent summary of practices on their page, recommended as scholar safe, having been double-blind tested and peer-reviewed. These meditation methods are okay. They're useful and valid, say the scholars. All right, some pictures. Santa Monica Zen Center. American flag. This is a Jewish Zen master getting ready to go in and lead his meditation class. This gentleman is working with the Boston College basketball team, teaching them positive contemplation in order to improve their concentration, which I'm sure reflects in a higher percentage of free throws. More three-pointers, fewer fouls. I don't know about power dunks. Probably that's unclear on the concept. But this is Senor Jose Hermanillo, Sr., who was an inmate at state prison and came back to teach the inmates Qigong. This I recommend to anyone who's interested in finding out more. Doing Vipassana is an hour-long video produced by two Israeli filmmakers who discovered a woman named Kiran Bedi, B-E-D-I, Kiran Bedi. Dr. Kiran Bedi is a jail warden in Tihar prison in New Delhi, one of the worst prisons in the world, overcrowded, full of, you become a better criminal by entering Tihar prison. And she was determined to actually rehabilitate the inmates instead of simply incarcerating them. So she found a method, the Vipassana meditation taught by Goenka, S. Goenka, who is a layman, not a monk, in India who teaches Vipassana meditation. It's called contemplating meditation, Vipassana. And what happened was, with the application of meditation to the inmates at Tihar prison, she turned the prison into an ashram. Now, take a look at this group. They're all wearing uniforms. She began with who? She began with the wardens. She required all the wardens, here is Kiran Bedi, she's the main warden, to do the course first. 10 days of meditation in silence, utter silence, no contact, simply working with your mind on these ageless technologies of meditation. John Robbins yesterday talked about the roots, these wisdom technologies that we all know but run past because they're so slow. Well, here's one of them. These are all wardens who took the meditation course first, and then they began with 100 inmates, then 1,000 inmates, and then 3,000 inmates, and Tihar prison changed. The film is superb. Doing time, doing Vipassana. These methods have been applied at San Bruno Jail in San Francisco, in Seattle, in various forward correctional systems around the country, introducing meditation to the jails. One of the scenes in the film, the first session has now concluded in a jail in Gujarat, up in the northwest of India. And the doors open, and here are the guards standing with their rifles in case any of these inmates comes out, swinging and ready to kill. And instead, the inmates come out, they see their wardens, and they sob. And they say, I've been wrong. I harmed society. I made mistakes. Please let me change. And they had this whole lineup of prison wardens and government officials watching to see whether anything happened after 10 days of meditation. And these inmates came out totally broken through their defenses of, I didn't do nothing wrong, it's your fault. It was, show me a way to change. I've been wrong. And this in a culture where castes still don't touch. Many of the prisoners are chandalas, many of the wardens are kshatriyas or vaishyas, and after the Vipassana experience, all those boundaries go away. So here's an example of meditation really going deep into a society. So that's doing time, doing Vipassana. John Kabat-Zinn, maybe some of you know, does stress reduction and also pain clinics. Zen Hospice, got started in San Francisco, is now worldwide. Jack Kornfield, Spirit Rock, meditation for people of color, for seniors, for children. Insight Meditation Center, Joseph Goldstein, very well known in the East Coast. They do silent retreats. Their silent retreat program is so booked that they have to do a lottery because the waiting list is long. So they just do a lottery. So you never know if you're going to get in or not because there's so many business executives and CEOs and power people who want to come in to be silent and sit still. Buddhist Peace Fellowship in Berkeley with Hozan Alan Sanaki. So these are places that meditation has reached out into society. It's not the case. If you had the image of meditators sitting under a tree seeking nirvana, well, they do that, but then when they stand up, they go out and get busy. So that's how meditation. Many Westerners are skeptical at first. Meditation seems mystical and irrational, but after PowerPoint presentations They think meditation is just as natural as apple pie, something we're familiar with. I guess that's the wrong slide. No. Here is a Shaolin monk getting a real PowerPoint presentation. He's flying on 4 spear points. Okay, never mind. All right, so at this point, I'm going to leave the podium, go over and sit in the chair, and invite you to please pick up your meditation handbook. So that's the history part of the show. This was history of and how to, right? So this is the how to part right now. I'm going to take my shoes off and then do what monks do, which is cross my legs. Please don't be intimidated by full lotus. I'm going to invite you to sit in your chair with your feet on the floor, please. If your legs are crossed, keep them there, but if not, please contact the earth with your feet. And we're in Burbank, which is in the LA Basin, Southern California. The Pacific Ocean is just to the west of us, right here. The sky is over our head. It's Sunday, so the air is clearer here than it is in midweek. We're not yet at noon, so the sun rose about 5 hours ago. And let's locate ourselves here on the planet. We're in a large room in the hotel near the runway. All of this used to be orchards not too long ago. Before that, there were grizzlies. The Native Americans loved this basin. They called it the Valley of the Smokes. So the LA Basin has always been somewhat misty. But have a sense of our being here, resting lightly on the earth, made up of what? When we meditate, because it's physical, we discover we're made up of stuff. Earth, air, fire, and water makes up the body. And we've been listening here at VegSource to many instructions about looking at health as balance, as rebalancing, as getting back in touch. And we're talking about earth, air, fire, and water, putting that in balance and harmony, and then that thing inside, whatever is inside this envelope of the 4 elements stacked together in various combinations. All right, with our butts firmly in our chair, if you can sit so that your back doesn't touch the back of the chair would be good. If that's not comfortable, don't worry. And let me say also that if this is something that you're not comfortable with, please, no one's going to have a single thought if you'd like to just simply observe. This is for meditation instructions for folks who are interested and curious. That's plenty, that's all. So if you feel like this is getting close to your boundaries, just take it as an exercise and observe, and please stay related as we pass on these instructions. All right, let's put our heads right in the center. Think about as if the head were suspended, perhaps from a string that's attached somewhere up near the planet Venus, and it holds our spine effortlessly straight. Because this device here is about 7 pounds, or I guess about 8 pounds if you're an MD or a graduate student. And we want to get that in the center, and it's usually one way or the other, right? So how do I do it? Nose lined up with navel, ears over shoulders, over hips. And let the air in our lungs go. Inhale deep, and then let all the tension go. You can even make a little bit of noise. Let's try that. LA air. Good, all right. Go through the body, start at the crown of the head and move on down and find any tension, maybe between your eyes, maybe at the base of the jaw, maybe in the shoulders, and let it go with the exhale. Find all that tension and send it back to where it came from, which is nowhere. You'll find in our book advanced instructions for what to do. Left palm up, right palm on left palm, thumbs touching. And we're not going to have time to do that in detail right this minute. But in general, we want our eyes not closed, but half open, looking down past the nose comfortably, even through the ground, just letting the energy move down. And if you can take the tip of your tongue and put it right behind your front teeth, they say that there are meridians that circle around through the body. And when our tongue touches the roof of the mouth, just behind the teeth, then those meridians connect. Very comfortably. Any tension, just let it go. Imagine that the air that we're breathing is the same air that our ancestors breathed. It fills our lungs perfectly. We know how to breathe. But most of the time we run right past our breath. I'm going to invite you now to watch your breath. Observe how your lungs fill at the bottom first. You know the way water fills a bottle, not at the top, not in the middle, but the bottom. Then the middle, then the top. Let the air fill your lungs the same way. First in the bottom, middle, and top. Brief pause, and we exhale. Diaphragm comes in, the air goes out of the lungs very comfortably. That breath is life. When life ends, breath stops. When breath stops, life ends. Alive, in touch, breathing. The earth of Southern California is no different than the earth in our bones, in our teeth, and our sinews, and when we die, it goes back. The water, the liquids in our body, the composition very much like salt water in the ocean. 80%, some people say 70, some people say more. Liquid parts, shared with the universe, shared with all water. The warmth, 98.6, just right. Comes from the sun, perhaps. Goes back when we die, we get cold, but while we're alive, we're related by the earth, air, fire, and water to all beings. Those with fins, feathers, fur, skin. And inside is that thing called spirit, soul, Buddha nature, different names. We inhale, exhale. Once we locate our breath, we'll notice that our thoughts are anything but still. If we can use our mind to watch our breath, the many thoughts can become one. Body and mind come back together. I usually meditate with my glasses off. I'll keep them on today, but if you'd like to take your glasses off, you can do that. We observe the breath entering the body through the nose and leaving This time, as the breath leaves, I'm going to invite you to wish yourself well-being. Inhale, and as the breath goes out from the heart center, may this being be well. Inhale, and mindful of the earth, air, fire, and water that we share with all creatures, this time, may all beings be well. May this being be free of disease. May all beings be free of disease. May this being be peaceful and happy. Truly wish it to yourself from your heart. May all beings be peaceful and happy. Use the breath to carry those thoughts out into the universe. Okay, I invite you to come back to normal awareness. That was just 2 minutes of sitting, and I did two things. One, and it's explained here in our meditation handbook, one thing that I did was to put mind and body together through awareness of breathing. That meditation you can take onto the light rail train, you can take it onto airplanes, you can take it into your bedroom before you go to sleep, first thing in the morning, cleansing breath. And the utter simplicity of it is the jewel. That's the trick, is putting the mind on nothing more than awareness allows all the many static thoughts to gradually dissipate. The other thing that I did was a visualization, which was, may all beings be at ease, well, healthy, peaceful, and happy. That is infinitely adaptable. You can make your own wishes. And we tie it to the breath again through the very real air that comes in our lungs and that everyone shares to send it out to the universe. You can gradually, as your concentration grows, those thoughts carry further and further. And you actually feel the connection between living beings and your wishes. Your mind becomes like a broadcasting tower of goodness. John Robbins yesterday talked about jewels in our mind, things that, ancient technologies that have not been forgotten, but they've been undervalued. Meditation is one of those. This is wisdom technology, techni being what people do, things we do, tools we use. And meditation is universal. We learned today that it's Eastern, Middle Eastern, Western. It's now interfacing with science, psychology, social activism. When we pick up this tool and make it ours, in fact, we discover it knits us back into the fabric of life. It gives us meaning in life. It gives us joy. And as the great master Zhi Yi said, meditation is not a method of achieving anything at all. It's peace and blessedness in itself. So I would invite all of you to please take advantage of some of these resources that I've shared today and see whether meditation doesn't work for you in answering the question, now that I know how to eat and become healthy, what do I do next? The answer, sit down and do less. Right? Don't just do something, sit there. I wanted to finish with a brand new song. Jeff mentioned that I did a bowing pilgrimage at one point, and coming up on Highway 1 from Santa Barbara, it was very, 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 very hot in 1977. We got to just before Gaviota Pass, if you know where that is, and everything was parched. It was dry, and there was no water available. We were in that drought, that 7-year drought that we had back then. And I recall seeing, as we were bowing by, this one huge tree by the roadside. This is the area where those oil derricks are as you go on Highway 1, Gaviota. And under this tree, it was the only tree for miles and miles, and it was a big, old valley oak with lots of shade. And we were traveling so slowly, 3 steps in one bow, 3 steps in one bow, that we really found ourselves part of the environment. And underneath this tree, to our amazement and joy, were deer, coyotes, foxes, rabbits, lizards, dogs, pigeons, all of the animals that ordinarily would be prey and predator were all taking advantage of the shade. They'd made a truce because of the power of the sun, the energy of the heat of the sun, and they were all sitting in the shade of the tree. And I thought, how wonderful if we could all sit in the shade of the family tree and through meditation dissolve those boundaries that split us up one from the other and understand that we really are in this boat together. So just like the peaceable kingdom picture, I saw it manifest in front of my eyes. So this new song is called Sitting in the Shade of the Family Tree, and it was written for this conference. So see what you think. The cook, she called it omelet, but the chicken called it egg. You may call it drumstick, but the turkey called it leg. Every mother loves her children. Live and let life be. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. Water and earth, wind and fire, roots digging deep and branches reaching higher. North and south and east and west, all beings are kin to me. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. Well, I've got earth in my feet, I got oceans in my knees. 7 generations live on inside of me. My roots connect the universe, all beings are family. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. What we do to our planet, we do to our home. Planet Earth is our address, nobody lives alone. Everyone's a neighbor in our Earth community. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. Want to join me? We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. Sounds good. Earth is home to all of us. Share the crops, don't make a fuss. Share the food grown in the ground. There's enough to go around. Ready? Eat the burger, feed the cat. One you swallow, one you pet. Pet the burger, eat the cat. Never gonna get that straight. I got brothers wearing fur, I got sisters wearing fins. Some with wings and some with tails, some with rainbow skin. I don't eat my family, come sit right here by me. Join me. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree again. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. Cook, she calls it omelet, but the chicken called it egg. You may call it drumstick, the turkey called it leg. Every mother loves her children, live and let life be. So we can sit beneath the shade of the family tree. Last time, join me. We can sit beneath the shade of the family tree.